And Sonya Massey, I apologize. And what happens when Black people really call upon the Lord? Tonight on Black Freethinkers. All right, y'all. Welcome back to Black Freethinkers. Tonight I have the lovely Maya Adkisson and the phenomenal Darante LaMar with me. I do want to give people a bit of a heads up that tonight's subject is serious and gets into some graphic content. We're going to try to have fun with it, but, just kind of want to give everybody out there a little content warning.
Yeah, I saw what the topic was going to be today, and I'm like, it's going to make me call him some names I'm not supposed to say on Skeptic Haven.
Well, we'll do our best. But look, there's stuff I really want to get into, and I'm not hearing people talk about it. I do think it's a touchy subject. I don't really fault anybody, but it's definitely something that's been putting the pebble in my shoe. So let's get into it because it starts pretty early, and that's what I kind of. All right, so let me just put it out there, y'all. Like, this woman was a Black Christian in a way that is just so undeniable to me, and there's just something about that framework, like. She is in that space, and it's so clear to me from the gate. And her go-to is to call upon Jesus.
Yeah,
and it's literally from the beginning to the end. That is what she is doing, and we need to have a conversation about how that is not the hedge of protection that Black Christians think it is. And
right.
I've said something on this show, which is that Black people have always used Christianity to audition for full citizenship, and it has never worked.
Yeah.
And this is a highlight. This highlights that for me. So let me just go ahead and play some of it. We're not going to look at all of it, but I want to start here, and y'all will hear this hopefully, like as she's answering the door. Did y'all hear it? Because it's faint and it's kind of in the background.
Yeah.
What?
So I'll play it one more time. See if you hear it. It says, please God, as she's opening the door. Like,
wow.
So she's she's like, she's already scared, she's already terrified, and she's literally already having that instinctive calling upon Jesus. But if you pay attention to this part of it, I'm gonna just say this, like, she's sincere. Like, this isn't one of these people who thinks it's cute or something like this. This is
right.
Like, please God, I'm about to open the door. I'm terrified of what's going to happen to me as I open the door, and I'm calling upon you to protect me. All right, I'm gonna try to hit y'all with it one more time, and then we're gonna move on. Nobody is out here, and I need to go here. Please don't hurt me, y'all. Oh, it hurts you. You called us. Okay. All right, here we go. So what'd you hear? Somebody outside my house, y'all. Is this your car over here? said it again, please, God, please. She just, it's
Well,
a,
I mean, she's saying like, or she's saying, please, God, don't hurt me.
yes. So I say coming up, she's going, please God, and then yes, as there's all she's saying, please God, don't hurt me, and she's terrified, literally,
Well,
really.
I mean, she's terrified enough to want to call the cops, which I don't know what it's like in her neck of the woods, but I mean that most of the Black people I know, and I'm talking like most of the Black ones I know are like middle class, even.
Yeah.
Not the first line of defense, honestly.
Nope.
No.
Nope.
If I have a male family member anywhere nearby, I'm calling them first. And I mean, so I don't know. For me, it just speaks to like how terrified she is, and she's tiny.
Yeah.
I mean, I know you feel it. For me, it's just like God is what people cling to when they feel helpless. So I'm not surprised to hear her saying this, because it's just like I feel defenseless.
Mm-hmm.
No, this aspect of it is, it's like as Uncle Bobby would say, like, I have no jokes. Like, it's just I see a Black woman terrified, and like you said, this is the instinctive response. But it's something that, to me, like, I thought about this earlier, like, what would happen if a white evangelical Christian was somewhere, I don't know, that they think is scary, maybe a country with a Muslim country or something, and they're in a situation where they were terrified and they were calling upon Jesus, and something like this happened to them.
Yeah.
It would matter. It would be something they were outraged about. It would be something people are talking about, because it's so egregious.
Yeah.
It's so egregious to just hear a person pleading their faith over and over again, and to be so dull to their humanity that it has no effect on you at all, and you don't recognize what's happening.
I have two thoughts. Back in 2012, I did a paper called "The Perception of Law Enforcement Amongst Minorities and Impoverished Communities."
Mm-hmm.
And what seemed to be a common phenomenon is that amongst minorities and impoverished communities, we typically don't depend on law enforcement for protection, but instead we typically use law enforcement as a weapon.
Yeah.
And so it's like the only time the only trust I put in law enforcement is to hurt somebody.
Mm-hmm.
And so the only time I'm really calling 911 is when I'm threatening to hurt somebody, which when you have someone who's calling 911 for protection that's in a minority or impoverished community, there is such a high risk involved that we're really less likely to engage it. And when we do, it's a high anxiety provoking event. Because you don't know if this person is going to treat you like a citizen or a perpetrator.
Right.
And a very real issue in the law enforcement community right now is this perpetrator mentality. And when you combine that perpetrator mentality with a bias towards color or even a bias towards class, then automatically anybody who doesn't fit the color persuasion or the class persuasion that you feel like pays your bill, that butters your bread, then you identify those people as a perpetrator, which we kind of see in this video. Even though this lady is calling for help, she is treated like a suspect from the moment they arrive on her property. And it's disgusting to me that doesn't get called out enough.
So that touches on so many things. One thing I was thinking of is the fact that so many of the people who police in Black communities are not Black and definitely don't live there. And both of those are problems, right? One, because you don't identify as the community that you have this power over. And that's how it comes out. It comes out even if it's when it's a local cop or a cop from one of the communities, there's a policing from within. Like I remember when I worked at a church in New Jersey, some of the cops that would come by and do different things with the kids and stuff like that, they were from that community. They looked like those kids. And it was a very different sort of feeling, like it really was. And that's a department that, to their credit, puts a lot of emphasis on community policing, but there's never enough. And but for the most part, communities are, because it's a let's face it, it's a good paying job, especially in a city or something like that. And so people live from somewhere else, and that's definitely a problem.
Well, a lot of cities are stopping that, where like now you have to live within some area. You have to police your own community. You're not just going in to terrorize and leave, or you have some kind of like stake in it. So again, I live in Baltimore, and I get to see. So one of my friends, her husband is a Baltimore City policeman. They live in Baltimore County. And I just pulled him aside, and I'm like, and this is actually shortly after the Freddie Gray stuff was going on. And I'm like, what the hell is going on? I'm like, and if you saw, I don't know if you guys remember, but all of the cops that were indicted in the Freddie Gray trial were Black, all of them.
Yep.
And I asked, I'm like,
oh yeah, I remember that case.
Do cops have, like, is this a race issue or is it an area issue? Because if you come to Baltimore, it's actually a pretty safe city. It's a very clean city. Many areas, I mean, it's a historic city. A lot of touristy parts. It's West Baltimore. Like, this is where you see the issues. And I'm like, is this an area issue or is this a race issue? And I said, what I'm asking you is, do I get treated differently because I'm in West Baltimore, or do I get treated differently because I'm Black? And he was like, it's kind of a combination of both.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And again, this is from a predominantly Black police force. It is a lot of, I'm sorry, I've been at work all day. But you guys know, Jay, you got to know what I'm talking about, at least that one study where they had the college kids and they were playing cops and robbers, and like some of them were jailers and some were prison inmates. And it was just like just being told, like, these are the inmates, like making that this us versus them mentality.
Yes.
Made.
The Harvard study,
yeah. And like just those dynamics in your head, like, no, they are the other. And these are affluent white men against affluent white men, and they knew that. They knew they were not, and so if you could imagine also that dehumanizing part too.
Somebody said police, somebody asked police is a well-paid job. Depending on where you're at,
depends on where you're at.
Very.
Yeah, it's
I'm gonna keep it real with you. Where I live, as a college professor,
well paid.
As a college professor, I don't want to see. I got a policeman neighbor. I don't want to do notes. I don't want to compare.
Our policemen.
I'm gonna regret grad school real quick.
Last time I checked, our policemen didn't make like a whole bunch, but like it's mandatory overtime, so they kind of fit that in.
They do a little better than teachers do. Then Yeah,
a lot of them make 6 figures a year. It's not uncommon at all. Yeah,
and that's what I think.
Promotion,
which is like double time. It's insane,
But I do think that part of it, even beyond a racial issue and an area issue, I think a part of it is a policing issue. That at the very nature of policing right now, especially in this country, that, we can't separate the fact that policing kind of evolves out of slave catching. And evolves out of this very authoritative, compliant culture. And every single policeman I have ever encountered, regardless of race, was absolutely offended by the fact that I was a smart Black man. Every single one. I have never had an encounter where I had permission to be intelligent as a Black man. Could not ask questions, could not assert my rights. Me doing anything put my life in jeopardy. Like realistically, and at that moment, just by me saying like, hey, what am I being arrested for? Well, you are now resisting arrest.
But see, this
Like,
is so
this is
deep.
real.
This is so deep because it's almost like a disappointment that you're not meeting the expectation.
Yes.
Although those meeting those expectations could put your life in jeopardy, right? Because that's when things get off the rails. But diverging from that also puts your life in jeopardy because now I'm mad you didn't meet my expectations. And I want to challenge that real quickly because this is not that episode. But let's just say there's a certain candidate whose Blackness is being questioned. And there's nothing more relatable as a Black person. There's nothing blacker than having your Blackness questioned.
Having your Blackness questioned.
Only certain people have their Blackness questioned. I'm just, I just want to put that out there. But seriously, it's scary, and it's also interesting because what you made me think of too is you'll hear these conversations where our white friends, they start talking that good talk. Oh no, if a policeman ever stops me, I'm going to tell him this and that. And I know my this and that and the third. And you ought to. I'll be sitting here like, bro, nah.
Bruh, it don't.
Bro, it don't work like that for us. We can't do none of that.
Nope. That's like the Moorish community. Like, that's the big thing that the Moorish community pushes is just like, yeah, man, you got to know your rights from the Black's Law Dictionary and all of that stuff. And when you say this to the police officers, they have no chance.
The magic word.
Bow down. And I'm like, bruh, you about to get shot, homie. Like,
you can't be trying that everywhere. I mean, it might fly in like Portland.
Yeah, it's a real risk. And okay, so that takes me back to the thing with Sonya, right? Which is it is an option, and I respect it. I've found myself in situations where, you need police assistance, or you get to a point where you feel you need police assistance. But it is a tremendous roll of the dice, and y'all are absolutely right. It's just the calculus. The calculus is not it's so different. Like, for one, I always try to tell people, you feel safer with more and more police presence. Yeah. I feel safer with less and less police presence. Matter of fact, when I travel internationally to places that are like so small or remote that they don't have a police force, I will tell people I've never felt safer. Just never. There's a culture. We all know there's no police here. Nobody tries anything. God forbid somebody did it. It's just something people deal with. But you quickly realize that that's not about that. You just that fades from your mind, and you just enjoy the peace. You enjoy the self-regulation. Yes. You enjoy that participation, like that opportunity to just be safe and keep everybody safe. Everybody keeping you safe, you keep everybody else safe, and it's just lovely when you get it, right? And that's one less vector of discrimination you feel you're going to face. And I don't necessarily, I don't tell people that to like make them feel bad or something. I just tell them that because it's a fact. I want them to understand that that's an emotional reaction that I literally can't help. When I see police everywhere, I'm very, very nervous. When I don't see a police, I'm like, oh, we're going to be all right. And it's not supposed to be like that, but that's how I feel.
I mean,
but and it's even deeper than emotional though. This impacts our health, and I had never thought about this until a few years ago while I was facilitating a DEI course, and I was talking about how being a Black man living in the South, that literally every time a police officer, is behind me, whether his light's on or not, I have to be alert. I have to look at my speed. I have to make sure I'm signaling properly. Like there's all these things go off. Or even if I just hear a pickup truck coming down the road, I'm wondering if this is the day that the South has decided to try to rise again. And it was in that moment that someone asked and said, ooh, I wonder, is that why so many Black people deal with high blood pressure?
Yes.
And then
it is.
You know, like,
we have studies. No, we have studies on this.
Wow.
I'm sorry, I'm listening to you.
No, go ahead. No, you pick up right there.
No, I mean, because like I didn't even think to pull it up, but yeah, no, this is a legit thing. Black people have like hypertension, higher stress. We have lifelong stress that takes years off of our life. And it just in addition to all the other factors that take years off of our life.
Yep.
It is stressful being a Black American. Like you put an African, like from Africa, an African immigrant in the same next door, same circumstances. We have different health problems.
Absolutely.
Yes. Yeah. And that's the thing too, when you think about the people who think it's a fun talking point to be anti-DEI, one of the things they would deny us is racially informed medicine, right?
Yes.
Like, which is something we need, but they want to tell us that's racism or that's this or that's that. And it's like so many other issues where, you know, you have to think about what are the real implications. And if you want a cheat code, just jump straight to healthcare. And it's like so many other issues when they start playing their little word games. What's really behind it is a threat to somebody's health and well-being. And this is no different. So what's really like jumping out to me is that choice. When you find yourself in a situation where you do have to call the police or you do feel the need to call the police. Most recent thing for me was my moped got stolen, and like you can't even talk to your insurance. Like you just have to call the police when you have a vehicle stolen. You have to document it, you know. And it was interesting because I did all that with very little optimism. One, because I just didn't think they would care. And I especially thought if they could pick up anything indicators about me, they really wouldn't care. But they actually found it. And it was one of those things where I was like surprised. But yeah, it happens. Okay. And so she puts herself in that situation. She hears something or thinks she hears something or whatever, right? And picks up the phone and calls the cop. And cops are actually, to be honest with you, she called more than one police thing, because one of the things people may not have seen is she gets a call back from, I believe, the local police department. And these guys are like sheriffs, right? And so she's like, oh, I had called y'all too, but these other police are here. And so they get ready to hang up the phone. And she's like, hang on. It's really weird. Okay, let's do that, because that's, you know what? That's another thing we should be thinking. All right, let me see if I get this back up. I'm gonna show y'all this, because it's another little part of this that's chilling. All right, so it says we're here. All right, maybe we just go here. Okay. All right, so let me see. That should be somewhere. It's like early when they go in. Okay. Yeah. You can hang out.
I got the sheriff. They coming back. I know they're already here. Hello? Yeah, I need I got the sheriff department here, but I was calling for help from y'all.
Are you there with me?
They're here in my house right now.
Okay, I'll let you go. You talk to them.
No, hold on. Wait a second, sir.
You can hang up, Cottonwell.
Okay, number one, you're there with the deputy, correct?
No, hold on, okay?
You can hang
Hold
up.
on for what?
Just 1 second, okay?
All right. Now, this is so interesting, because y'all got me thinking about this other thing. Because part of this to me is this whole thing that she keeps calling upon the name of the Lord. And I'll come back to that because it's so chilling. But the reality is she called the police. And we started having this conversation about we feel less safe with more police, and it's supposed to be the inverse, and apparently is for other people. This is an example where she calls more police, as though the ironies in the situation can't get any deeper. Like, not only did she call the police and all this happened to her, but she called other police and told them. And so these police knew she had been on the phone with the other police and that she called them, and all this still happened. This still happened after you just heard another police department call her and her say she was concerned and she called the police and yada, yada, yada. So at least some party you should go off. I shouldn't do something stupid right now because there's a documented call where she called another police department and they called back. So, you know, I better be on my best protocol behavior or whatever. Like,
I mean, the whole thing is silly to me. It's just like, if I need to hurt somebody, why the hell would I call the police?
Yeah. And the thing that really grinds my gears is that with every situation like this, there's always more than one cop involved. Mm-hmm. And even though there's always more than one cop involved, at this moment, unless it escapes my recollection, there is never a cop that steps in and say, hey, we're going too far. You are escalating the situation. Let me stop you from violating the rights of an American citizen. I haven't seen it yet.
I think I can get you one. She actually ended up being fired for insubordination.
See.
Wow. Yep. When you put it in that context, I can think of a few more. When you think, because there was the brother who went on that shooting spree after going through a similar incident of where he had tried to stand up against police injustice in his department and was fired, you know, and
wow,
that's sad.
It really is. But no, you make a great point, and it's part of the conversation we need to have when people talk about the bad apple or it's just a few bad ones. And again, it's not to throw shade on all of them.
Right.
Because that's another.
Don't throw shade on all of them. Look, there's the bad apples and there's the ones that cover for them.
That's right.
You know, and I understand, like, they want their job. They, you know, I'm not going to make any waves. And then there's the cases that we're talking about where, you know, the people we're thinking about, they were made examples of.
Yeah.
You know, you're not one of us. Get out.
Yeah.
Yes. No. Okay. You said it right there. You're not one of us. And that's the messaging. If you're actually trying to protect people, if you actually put people over us, you're not one of us. Yeah. And the sad thing about that is that messaging is allowed to be made clear. Mm-hmm. The Blue Lives Matter movement made that messaging clear, that the brotherhood is more important than the obligation to protect and serve.
Yeah.
And what was crazy about it too is this is why I also am still even more afraid of black cops, because sometimes there's the risk that they're always going to go that extra step to like prove that. And I remember finding myself in a situation where I got pulled over, whatever it was, by two white cops. And when a black cop showed up, I was like, oh, it's about to be a problem. And sure enough, it was about to be a problem. Because again, like, they are one of them and not one of, and it's very.
Any lenience towards you is going to get the side eye.
And that even goes beyond through just the cops, but also black judges. Like I
was actually thinking of black judges. I was like, I don't want to bring the judges.
I'm like, I hate to say this, but I definitely got to the place where I was like, I'd almost rather be before a white judge who doesn't have to worry about protecting their job because of a ruling that they pass. And like, I have friends who are judges in small towns, and that's a real reality that, you know, hey, the police did something crazy to you. I'm gonna let you go with the fine, but I still got to give you the fine, because if I don't, then when I come up for re-election, I'm gonna have all this smoke against me. there's so many politics and there's so many power plays that are involved when it comes to this racist infrastructure that even people who get in the system to try to make a change just become its lunch.
Yeah.
You know, it's just like, yikes.
Yeah, no, that's totally true. So yeah, what I was getting at before is just that it is a cultural problem, and the only reason I said that they're not all bad is because I think that's another ploy, that's another tactic. You know, look, listen, I'm sure not every executioner is evil, but when we're talking about when we're trying to address a structural issue, let's not sidestep the structural issue by pointing out, you know, well, this guy helped me get my cat out of a tree or whatever. Like I said, like I've been in a situation where police have helped me. Matter of fact, I was traveling. I was in the airport the other day and I chased down the cops. Why? Because I saw an unattended suitcase. It was right outside a eatery. Somebody left it leaning up against the wall. And I said, it's probably somebody that just went to get their food. You know, and they'll be right back. They just
it doesn't hurt to be too careful there.
About it. But I was like, but if I were gonna just leave a bomb somewhere, it would also not be a bad.
You did the right thing.
And they tell you that's what you're supposed to do, right? So I tracked down the cops, and there was like a group of them. And I walked back and I showed them where it was. And as I was walking up, a guy walked up and took it. I was like, I told you I was probably somebody's briefcase. But it was, suitcase or whatever. But it's just what you're supposed to do in that situation. And I'm definitely not qualified to deal with what would have happened had it been something else, right?
I don't know. That's just sus as fuck. I'm sorry. But like, I mean,
love it.
Sorry. I'm just thinking about, again, city girl. I can't think of anything I would leave unattended.
Right. Yeah.
You know, like maybe my coat on a chair if other people were at the table. But I just, I don't know. I would have done the same thing.
Yeah. So
for sure.
So it's just to set the stage for the conversation that it's crazy to be put in that situation where you're between, I'm so afraid of whatever's happening, I think I need to call the police. And then immediately as the police come, I'm now
there's
so
everything about
that
I'm sorry, my internet's being weird.
No, go ahead.
Everything about what she's doing is screaming, I am terrified.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, no, it really is. And
I think a good way to the good thing that highlights that is the amount of time she's calling on God, right? Which is probably her number one go-to. That's probably her priority, which means at this moment she is so afraid that this idea of calling on God isn't enough. And so she's like, I'm calling on God and the police. It's like I'm calling for extra security. And that's I think that's the really heartbreaking part about this, because this woman couldn't find safety in her religion nor her society. And that should be an indictment.
Yeah.
Yes. And it should, you just made me think about what her moments were before she picked up the phone and how prayerful they might have been about, not having heard something in the first place or not needing to call the police or, whatever it is. And yeah, that's just, that's really deep. So, all right, let me put this out there because I have these mixed feelings. So one thing is I want to say, I almost didn't want to have this conversation because it's one of those situations where it's like, this is not the time, right? When we talk about our differences as free thinkers versus believers or whatever, there's a time and a place, and then there's like way inappropriate, right? And this came up the other day on the line, actually, when Seth Andrews was on it, because I was making a comment about, keeping the conversation with believing family members open and not necessarily closing it off. And he was clarifying like, oh yeah, what I was really saying that like this person was concerned about going to a family function. And I was trying to say, you don't do this at a family function because it's It's not the right time to get into that. And I was like, oh yeah, I totally agree. And I think this is one of those things. Like, this is one of those things where I'm not going to talk about this right now because we're mourning the loss of a person, and there's a much larger conversation that's happening, and I don't want to be disrespectful, right?
Yeah.
At the same time, it hurts me that I can't have this conversation with the believers in my life, because as a former believer, this is what it feels like. This is the futility of the faith manifest. And it's literally like, I hate to say this, but I think for a lot of believers, even when you, okay, I hate to say this, when you notice when people, like especially white folks, commit crime, when they get before the judge and shit, like they get very Christian. You'll notice even like Trump's lawyer, like when she was getting convicted, she had on her cross pendant, and she was like, as a Christian woman, I'm just very disappointed in my da 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 da. And it's code for like, I'm wanting an extra bit of leniency. I'm hoping that a person sees me as deserving of mercy, grace, compassion, some sort of treatment, like just fully see me and care for me, right? I'm a real person. And to me, she did that, and it didn't matter. They didn't see her differently now because she was calling upon the Lord. They didn't see a Christian woman in front of them. They just still saw a Black woman.
Yeah.
If they saw that.
If they saw that. Yeah.
Well, you know, I think, and I want to be careful about jumping to conclusions, but just watching the way that they're examining her house, I think there are so many conclusions that they jump to about who she was and her worth as a person.
Yeah.
And that's why I often point this out when it comes to policing as a class issue. I think the fact that she was Black was a strike against her. The fact that she was a woman was a strike against her. The fact that she was older was a strike against her. And then I think the fact that they came in and saw her house in a way that they would identify with a poverty class, at that moment, her life became disposable to them, dispensable. And I hate to say it because we don't want to think that people think like that, but sometimes. But we hear them vocalize it. We hear them verbalize it, where they call people trash and vermin. And in their mind, they're exterminating this threat, these people who are just taking up space. And it's just like, you know, I don't know if that was what their method of thought was, but just watching the video, it's a very odd escalation. And the only way it could escalate like that is if you're getting your data from somewhere else other than just her, because there's nothing she's saying to you that really warrants that type of escalation. Even when she gets to the point where she says, you know, I rebuke you in the name of Jesus, it's not even said with any type of virility. You know what I'm saying? It literally could have been this thing in jest of like, no, I would never do something like that. I'm not going to hurt you with my boiling water. I rebuke that. Are you saying that I'm that type of person? And so like there's nothing in her behavior that warrants the escalation of force. And so I wonder if they're picking up their cues from other factors in that room.
And we hear a lot of this too. Like you'll hear people say like, maybe she, you know, maybe she, you know, was having a mental health episode or something. And I'm like, oh yeah, it's worth pursuing that conversation, because it needs to be said that her life would have been saved had they handled that appropriately, had they maybe been suspicious of that and said, oh, this isn't a call for us. Oh, like we checked the property. All right, it's all clear. Yeah, there's no need for us to come into your house, ma'am. You know, and then they could go off and call somebody and keep an eye on the property till they get there, whatever. And matter of fact, I've seen some comments on YouTube from law enforcement people, and they said that's how you're supposed to do that.
Yeah. Well, and not to cut you
No,
off, right?
no.
like what Darante was saying was making me think. When I first heard the story, I was like, there's got to be more than just this one call. Like, had she made these types of calls before? You know, was he tired of her?
Wow.
I mean, it really felt like he was just like, I'm not coming out here no more. You know, like you're wasting my time.
Yep.
Like that. I don't know. It just felt like that. And I don't know. So Mommy was also saying like, you know, that she had called the cops, and I don't know if it was this particular cop. But, and then I know that, I reading the stories like the day of, people were saying that she had been diagnosed with schizophrenia. And I haven't followed up on that, but it's not her behavior isn't out of line with that either. So I don't know, but I know that people who have mental illnesses can get on the cops' nerves because they're different. They're quote unquote needy. They need extra assurances that the cops are just like, I'm not here for this. I'm here for you to stroke my ego. And, you know, it's too much. And, you know, there's a big reason why we're calling for social workers to replace cops.
Yes.
Yeah. And, you know, like this is, you know, a thing that touches all of us because, you know, I have a mental health condition. A lot of people do. And, you know, you do see how it's just something people just go to right away to justify treating you differently. And it's really unacceptable. And there's so much intersectionality because again, you think I think a situation, if she wasn't a Black woman and you go in there and you see somebody, you think maybe they're having a rough day, and then you go into their place and, you know, okay, maybe they're a hot mess, you know, that evokes some compassion, some sympathy for you. Okay, let's just make sure, you know, this person's okay. Let's make sure, you know, there's nothing going on, and let's get out of here. But you're right. It was almost like they were angry at how dare someone like her call them.
Yep.
Do you mind if I read a statement from the American Psychiatric Association?
No, of course not.
Ooh.
The July 7th killing of Sonya Massey by former Sheriff Deputy Sean Grayson is a disturbing and horrifying tragedy that should never have happened. Law enforcement, when visiting the home of anyone with reported mental health concerns, should be trained and prepared to respond to those individuals with care and empathy, not violence and harm. A 2024 study from researchers at the Johns Hopkins Center for Gun Violence Solutions and Vanderbilt University found that 67% of all shootings by police involving someone suffering from a mental or behavioral health episode were fatal. 67%.
Yeah.
Further, the injustice of Miss Massey's killing lays bare the ways in which racial inequalities can play in our communities. More specifically, the Black community should not have to fear interactions with organizations that are charged with keeping us all safe, nor should anyone else. And that was the opening sentence.
Yeah.
Or the opening paragraph.
That's crazy.
You know, there's only one problem with that. And this is a problem I've had since I was in high school, since I was a freshman. Many of you probably remember when the U.S. started getting really strict on truancy laws.
Yeah.
My mother was a drug addict. Because of that, I could not always make it to school the way that I was supposed to. There was a day in 9th grade that I called the police for assistance with getting to school because I didn't want to be arrested if I was seen walking out, you know, around the city.
Mm-hmm.
They sent 2 police officers to my little single-wide trailer just to threaten me for calling the cops over such a trivial issue, and told them that they were not responsible for matters like that. And my little 9th grader self said, well, I thought that you were here to protect and serve. And their exact response to me, and I've never forgotten it because they were not the only officers who've given me this line, is that no, we are not here to protect and serve. We are here to arrest and to petition. And so I think is I hate that we still say that they're here to protect and serve. I hate that we allow that to be on the vehicles, because that's not a part of their job description, and that's not how they see themselves.
Mm-mm.
And it's like, and we don't like. I wish this country would call that shit out, call it on the carpet. Why do they get to say, "Oh, I'm out here in the line of duty to protecting," when that's not really what you're doing, especially when it comes to poor communities and minority communities? Now, I say that in no way to disrespect those who that may be what you sign up to do, but God damn it, I'd love to see you on the news sometime.
So yeah, you know.
Well, I mean, protect and serve looks so much better than to maintain the status quo.
Come on now.
I have my
Damn
own
it.
horror story from when I was in college, but I was on my way to court to have some charges thrown out that should have never been filed against me. So that, you know, that's a quick version of the background. And then I actually got, you know, arrested because I was following the police. I was trying to get them to give me directions to the court. I couldn't find the court. I was using MapQuest directions. That's how old I am. And I got lost, and I knew police had to be in court because he was working at court. Mm-hmm. So I was like trying to get the signal, like wave down the cop, like, "Yo, I need you to help me so I can get to court." They verified all this. My lawyer was literally in front of the judge in the court, listening to all this happen on the police intercoms. So my story completely checked out. But the reason they dealt with it was the cop said he was scared. And my whole life since then, I've recognized that I call it the white lie. Because, you know, we say white lies, and it's the white lie. And that's, I fear for my safety. I fear for my life. We were watching a documentary in Gather, I think it was last night, about a racist woman who like murdered her neighbor. And that was her, you know, the woman was outside, wasn't even in her place. The woman was like banging on the door or whatever, and they had some beef or whatever.
Oh, wait, was it the black woman? And she had like the neighbor didn't like her kids. And
yes.
Yeah, that was crazy.
Yeah. But it was the same thing. She wanted to make sure I feared for my life. So it's always what they go to. And I see this even with
those detectives were good though.
Yeah.
They were. And you see this with Sonya Massey, where it's almost, you know, we say these things happen that you can't write in a script because it would be rejected for being too unrealistic. But it's like woman, you know, black woman gets shot, unarmed black woman gets shot for having a pot of water, right? It sounds like a headline from The Onion or something like that,
right?
Yep.
Right? But that's but
it's
black
reality.
woman shot for boiling water, boiling while black. But I mean, I don't even mean to trivialize it like that. But like we know. Can't drive while black. Can't walk while black.
It's the whole magical Negro syndrome. We exist to make other people comfortable. We exist to make other people successful. We exist to make you smile. We exist not to be not to be conflict for you, not to be friction for you. And it's like, and that's what robs us of existence. Anytime you say, "Oh, well, you're too loud, you're too authoritative, you're too mean, you're too aggressive," and it's just like, man, what the fuck? What if that's just me? What if you're misinterpreting who I am through your lens of bias, and through that you're trying to make me conform to something that gives me no liberty, peace, or prosperity? Like, wow.
I'm on the internet, especially because I'm not, you know, I don't enjoy like the whole like just like bland vanilla thing, especially as an academic.
Yes.
A whole bunch of books and that's just not me, y'all. Like, it's just no disrespect to people who that's them. That's just not me. It's not who I am. It's not even what I want to see. Y'all know, like, my favorite YouTuber is Uncle Bobby because I like a little spice in my jambalaya. But people act like I'm tripping or I'm losing my mind or something. I'm like, no, I just think you're boring, to be honest.
Yes.
But yeah, it is what it is.
I don't know. Like, if I had my daughter on my show, well, we were doing a Saturday stream, and it was about oh god, what do you call it when long day at work, but just how you have to put on like a mask at work, and it's more than being business professional.
Yeah.
You're white as a black woman, or a black person, you have to whitewash yourself.
Yes.
So that you don't offend your colleagues, because they, you can't have too much bass in your voice when you ask a question. It'll scare them.
Nope.
Yes.
It's
now,
just.
Now let me give people
code switch. Thank you.
Code switching.
Oh yeah,
yes.
for sure.
And just to say quickly, and it's not even just at work, even after work. Like if you're hanging out with coworkers after work, you feel that your other coworkers can say whatever they want to say, behave the way however they want to behave. You always feel on guard for, okay, let me not drink too much, let me not say too much, let me not cuss too much. Like that shit is mind racking.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. And so let me put this way too, there's a baseline of compliance that comes from a desire to create social cohesion.
Yes.
So like there's stories, let's just put it this way so I'll make it quick. Like there's stories of people not getting ahead or having problems at work, and finally somebody sits them down and tells them, it's you and your damn blue shirt. We all wear white shirts every day, and you wearing a blue shirt just makes it feel like you don't want to be part of the team. Now that sounds so silly, but I'm just giving an example of how people work and how organizational
that's
dynamics
real though.
Do you remember when Obama wore a tan suit?
There you go. Perfect.
It's really not that crazy.
And so that's what I was going to say on top of that. So this is there no matter who you are. It's there even if you're white, all white. It's just that's
for
there.
Sure.
But it's so much easier to go along, to get along, when what's asked of you is pretty much already how you are, or at least within your cultural range, right, of what you're comfortable with. Yeah, maybe I'm not a button-up type every single day, but whatever. Like it's not gonna throw me off my game.
Or if the people who are in charge of that societal structure are your great uncles and your great aunts and your great grandfathers. Yes. So when you want to deviate a little bit, there's a little more compassion there for you. There's like, it's like, oh, I want to understand you. But when you don't look like me, you know what I'm saying? All of a sudden that compassion and that grace is not there. It's always funny to me. And I've watched this my whole life in the South, that I'd watch my friends, who were a different persuasion, get in trouble. And when the cops would get involved, it's, oh, those are boys being boys. Those are kids being kids. Bobby just had a bad day. But when the cops were called on people who look like me, you didn't get that same compassion, that same benefit of the doubt. This is a menace to society, and they got to be taught a lesson. They have to be punished, and it was just like, it was mind-blowing to kind of witness those things in real time.
Yeah, absolutely. It's actually devastating and scary. And like we're saying, you're so much more subject to it because everything you do now is a blue shirt. The food you eat in the cafeteria is a blue shirt. God forbid you're part of a tradition and you wear something on your head for work, that's a blue shirt. Your blue shirt's a blue shirt. The way you talk, your name, the way you sound when you're with your friends and family, all of this stuff. You know what I'm saying? Everybody else.
It took me a while to get comfortable putting my name on my resume.
Yeah, I mean, and even in certain parts of the country, it's like, no, I'm Don. Just call me Dan. I'll be Dan for the interview.
Yep, I'm Kenneth today.
But no, I mean, it really does get crazy like that. Where, and Jay, you were saying something that I wanted to riff on for a second, though. But I'll go back to the name thing, which pisses me off, and I've had to tell Black people about themselves. I'm like, would you stop jumping on each other about this? I'm like, I mean, part of me is just like, we've been so impoverished for so long. Like, we don't have generational wealth.
Yeah.
For some people, your name is the only thing your mom can give you.
What you say.
And I'm like, just let your mom, I mean, just with pride, like, here, like, I thought of this. This is for you and no one else, you know?
Yeah.
And like, I don't care if it's LaDasha. Like, if your mom loved that, and she was like, you're so beautiful, I want to put this beautiful name on you. I mean, that's her heart and soul. And I don't know. I'm just not about like, I don't know. I don't understand. I mean, because like there are so many names, like if it's an Asian name or a Hispanic name, like nobody, everybody's just like, oh, well, that's native. So, that's okay. Even with African names, but if it's African American, I mean, it's just like everything
which
else.
means we're not allowed to make meaning.
Right.
We're not allowed to assign meaning to things. We have to depend on everybody else's definition. Things can't mean something to us.
Right. We can't have our own culture. We can't have our own dance because it's too wild. We can't have our own style. It's too baggy. We're thugs. We can't have our own like anything that's like that defines our culture. Well, that is black and black is bad, so therefore that is bad.
Yep.
And it's victim blaming because it's on people to read resumes the same regardless of the name on it. It's not up to people to not, have their culture reflected in their names. But Maya, you said you wanted to riff on something. I don't want you to.
No, I mean, I spun off with the name thing. Go ahead.
Okay. So Darante, actually, let me just play the other little bit of clip for people that haven't seen it. It's the one people probably have seen, but just in case, and then we'll be able to go from there. All right, so I want this view. All right, so this is the whole thing with the
Okay.
What's up?
I got some paperwork. Can you grab that Bible, please?
Yeah. Hey, I just
there it
need
is.
your name so we can get out of here.
Now you know what type of Christian she one of them type of Christians. I don't know if y'all caught that, y'all, but she one of them type of Christians that sometimes the functionality of the Bible and the functionality of the wallet, they sometimes blend together. Sometimes you're in a rush, you buy a purchase real quick, you just throw your card and your ID in your wallet and you get to it later. I mean, she carry her Bible on her person. Okay? You understand? Because that's she knows that's where her ID might be. So.
For sure. It's the safest place in her mind.
Exactly.
Was there any damage previous to your car?
Previous, yeah. It was.
Okay, what was the damage?
A dent, I believe.
But what about windows?
Oh, it was something that happened earlier.
Okay, perfect.
And that's
what is your last name?
Her car.
Shouldn't have to think about your last name. You're not in trouble. I just need to text.
Massey.
Massey. Yeah. You have an ID? That'd make things so much easier. I just need just driver's license will do, and then I'll get out of your hair.
I want to show y'all my paperwork.
I will get your paperwork.
What paperwork?
Okay. I got some paperwork.
Well, just get your ID.
Well, let's get your ID first, and then
one task at a time here.
Okay.
Here, grab your ID for me.
Okay.
Your ID, one task at a time. So let's do an ID, and then you can dig around for your.
No, this actually happens to me all the time because I don't necessarily need to have my ID or my wallet on me a lot. And so I'll lose sight of where it is. Oh, yeah. And the other day, my dad came to get me, and I was looking for my wallet for so long. I didn't want to keep him waiting. I just left. I said I can't find it. If I don't need it, I knew I didn't need it because y'all. That's the good thing about being home. That's a home moment right there. When you grown and you could jump in the car and be like, I didn't even need my ID or my wallet because I'm with my dad today. But. No, it just happens. And yeah, I just feel for.
I don't know. I know. I didn't. It's weird up here. Like we have to have our IDs on us in case we're asked for it. But when the police ask you, Baltimore's, believe it or not, a safe city. So there's a big push to not ask people to just believe them when they tell you who they are, or to not ask them unless you have probable cause. So like you stop somebody in traffic, obviously you have to ask them for the license and registration. But if I call the police, they're actually not supposed to ask us, for our IDs or any kind of identification, just because there's yeah, it's a safe city, but there's a lot of also there's a lot of immigrants, and there are a lot of undocumented people, and it's not like they don't work with ICE, but if you ask people, if people know that the police are going to come and ask for their ID and they don't have it, it's going to put a chilling effect on the community, because also those people tend to work to live around one another, which means that they don't feel comfortable calling the police, which means that other people know that they don't feel comfortable calling the police,
Right.
and feel more emboldened to commit crimes because they know that there's not going to be that checks and balances on them.
Yes.
So not requiring a license or an ID actually does promote more, what do you call it? Public
Safety. Yeah.
safety. Thank you. Or there's another word I was looking for, but yeah, safety and wellness. So I don't know. Like I just thought about that when they were asking her for all this stuff, and I'm like, why is this even necessary?
It
She
wasn't
is scared.
necessary.
She's asking for your help. Does it matter who she is?
Yep.
Yeah, and there's a move a lot of places to just remove incidents, remove opportunities for escalation, and the whole ID thing, I think, is a big part of that.
Mhm.
Absolutely.
You stand that stack right there, maybe.
1 second.
Check on her.
So now they point over to the stove.
We don't need a fire while we're here.
She goes, "Okay, I'll get it."
Let me see. Okay.
Where
Where you going?
Huh?
Where you going?
Away from your hot steaming water.
Away from my hot steaming water?
Yeah.
Oh, I would rebuke you in the name of Jesus.
Huh?
Rebuke you in the name of
Now she said, "I rebuke you in the name of Jesus." Massey said, in fact, she said it twice.
Mm-hmm.
I took this as literally anti-threat. This
Yes.
is how
Yeah.
dare you think I'm threatening you
Right.
with
Yes.
hot water.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's how I took it. Almost like a joke. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yep.
like how dare you accuse me of like, what do you think I'm gonna do? Like, I called you and now you're gonna suggest that. Okay,
I mean, she's literally saying that's offensive to my character. She's saying
Right.
I'm not
Yeah.
that type of person, you know.
Yes. Again, calling upon the name of the Lord, that shield, that coded language. I'm a Christian woman. I would
Yeah.
never. So that's what she's saying. I'm a Christian woman. How dare you?
Wow.
Right?
Wow.
I mean, we all heard it, but
Yep.
apparently, and this came out today, when she said that he took it as a threat, that she thought he was a demon and that she needed to kill him.
And so, like, now at that moment, if that's literally what he thinks, which part of being a police officer does he feel equips him to handle that? And like that means that in this society where we have an understanding that people who believe in demons are mentally unwell and need help, that means he knew that and decided to instead of de-escalating and getting help, nope, and it's gonna say it on the tape, but no, I'm gonna shoot you in the face.
Yeah.
This is horrible.
Yeah.
Like, there's no excuse for this.
Absolutely. All right. So
And yeah, but he's afraid of her because she's saying that.
Mhm.
And rather than like leaving the house, calling for backup, he draws his gun. I don't, it kind of pissed me off because I'm like, what part of this makes you think that this is better? Like, this is a good defense.
Mm-mm.
Like, I really don't, because like, and he was like, well, I didn't know what she was going to do when she dropped down. She dropped down because you pulled the gun on her.
Yes.
She was standing up before that. So
yeah, and I don't mean to sound like a nut, but I don't even know that she had it. Like when all right, he's gonna threaten her.
You better fucking not. I swear to God, I'll fucking shoot you right in your fucking face.
Okay.
Drop the fucking.
So she says, "I'm sorry," and look at that's
Yeah.
all I see in her hand is the the pot holder.
Yep.
So I don't know if she dropped it or spilled it or what, because he claims later that there's water. But he does in fact shoot her. And we don't need to necessarily
but
see
if you could play it just for a few more seconds,
Okay.
I want there right before the shoot, just a few more seconds. There's something else that happens here. Right here. That's it. The other cop draws his weapon.
Oh, yes. They both have weapons. Yes.
Like
not until he does though. Like he sees him with his gun drawn and he's like, wait, what are we doing?
But that's what I mean. Like, that's what I mean. Where is the good cop? If the programming is as soon as I see my partner drawing his weapon, even if he's drawing his weapon illegally, and it should not be overstated that this is an illegal use of force. This woman has committed no crime and no crime that is worthy of capital punishment. And you have two law enforcement officers there, and neither one of them seem to be able to understand that. It is literally just monkey see, monkey do.
Right.
Yes.
Right. And yeah, it's absolute, and look, it is, like I said, an exaggeration of the meme of an unarmed black person. It's literally a pot of water. It's not being safe in your own house. It's not being safe when you're the one who called the cops. It's not being safe when you called extra cops to make sure that there are enough cops to stop a bad thing from happening to you. Right? Because you can't even give us the old multi-department oversight or any of that stuff. Like what? Like everything just failed for this person.
I'm still like just racking my brain. And every time it just doesn't make it. It doesn't make it clear every time I see it. I'm like, she's even making the comment just kind of in passing, like kind of like you were saying, Jay. Just like, I'll rebuke you, get out of here with that nonsense.
Right.
He didn't look scared. He looked offended.
That's it. Oh, that's it, man.
Yeah. He very clearly was, and he responded by threatening to shoot her in the face, and then he shot her in the face.
And I don't know, like, because I was reading, I was trying to see like the latest news on it, and I'm reading today. He was like, "Well, I was scared. I thought I didn't know what I thought. My life was in jeopardy," and he's shooting her as she's yelling, "I'm sorry, I'm sorry."
Yeah.
Yeah, and getting down. Yeah.
And hiding.
Yeah.
But he thought he said that I could find it because he said he didn't know what she had or what she.
There was so much interesting too.
I thought she was going to throw the boiling liquid at me.
The boiling liquid at you while you were in full police garb, which includes a vest that is designed to withstand bullets, but you're afraid a little water is going to get on you, even though there's an entire counter that is stocked with items on it in between you and the damn water, you coward.
Yeah, no, there was no indication of that. There was just none.
But my thing is, like, even if this is a mentally ill person, like even if she had the boiling pot of water, like, oh, I'm gonna throw it on you. If even if it wasn't a mentally ill person, if we value human life, like, damn, you have so many other places you can shoot than the face. But that was not only your first reaction, it was your intended outcome. You literally said before anything, I'm going to shoot you in the effing face. Like, oh my goodness. I'm sorry, y'all.
No, it's true. It's true. And this is why, cops are supposed to have non-lethal means of dealing with even when they do feel like there's an emergency threat to their life.
I don't understand what the threat to his life
was. There
wasn't.
Right.
Like, okay, let's just say it was boiling. It was bubbling water. I mean, I know he doesn't deserve to be scalded, but this isn't life threatening.
Nope.
No.
That's
There's
like
I mean,
that's
your
like a
buddy's there with, I
firefighter
mean, like,
going
even
into
if she wanted to throw some water at you, your buddy's there. Like, I'm thinking, like, okay, even as a woman, there's a lot of us girls who've gotten mad at our guys, and we thought about boiling some water, right? But it's really more to diffuse the man.
Yes.
And then you do something else. Like, water is not, like, if somebody's really coming at you, it stops them long enough for you to get to whatever plan B is, just to like, somebody's charging at you, here's some hot water for you. And, now I'm getting, it gives me enough time to grab this bat, run away, do something more. His water does not, I mean, unless he thought she was going to, like, hold his head in the pot of hot boiling water. Like, that's the only way I could see it, that it would have caused a threat, or, and it also bothers me watching all these, I don't know.
Also, they could have done it
on Twitter say, "Oh, well, she had a boiling pot of water. He was in the right."
Oh, jeez.
And I just kind of wish there was an asteroid closer to the Earth.
But that is exactly what that was to me. It was his ploy for plausible deniability for escalating. And I don't know, because they were the ones who pointed it out. They were concerned. It's not like she went over there and was, like, trying to find a reason. Like, he pointed it out. She said, okay, I'll go over and take care of it. They could have just told her to back away. There was a lot of things that could have happened.
If you're so afraid of fire, instead of directing her to turn it off, you could have went over.
That's what I'm saying. They could have done it. Yeah, they could have walked over and did it. Yeah, exactly. But yeah, so the thing I want to make sure we just touch on and get your thoughts on is just that aspect, that I rebuke you in the name of Jesus is literally her famous last words. And it hurts me as a former Christian that Black Christians won't see that, won't talk about it, won't have that conversation, because it just didn't matter. It just didn't matter, and that terrifies me.
I know what the Black church typically does in situations like these that I've seen is they're going to repaint the narrative that her martyrdom is what ushered in the power of Jesus. So while it didn't happen in the moment, her name became a movement, and that's the power of Jesus. That's the propaganda of the church. That's how they're going to march this thing out. Pastors are flooding their pulpits right now with that type of messaging. Oh, that Sonya, we'll never forget your name. God heard your cry. I mean, we literally, when the earthquake hit Haiti, like we made a whole song about it. Like, even though God allowed this disaster to happen, God loves you, and is going to redeem you. He's not going to save you from the disaster, but he's going to allow us to make a song from it and make a lot of money from it. And you should feel better about that. This is how the church typically responds to tragedy in Black communities. Did that
during 9/11 too, where there were a lot of people who were saying that, oh, God, hates the USA, and that's why he let that happen. And the churches were like, no, this brought the country together. We're stronger now. This is God pulling us together. Yeah. Churches.
It's just so sad. It's just, and again, like, I don't want to hit anybody with that right now because it's a tragedy, but it was just such a vivid illustration of the futility of faith as a Black person. They will never see a Christian first. You will always be Black. And honestly, I don't even know what it means to be a Black Christian in America right now. It's something I couldn't do, couldn't find my way to in this moment. But it's I don't know how you reckon with something like this. Because I did even hear that in her family, like her family was basically, you know, they had Al Sharpton there and the
Oh wow,
lawyer Trump guy, you know, and so they were like, you know, God is how they're
the usual suspects.
Yeah, but you see the, I guess you see the cognitive dissonance in action. You see people coming up with the story, coming up with the narrative, coping, quite frankly, and God being so essential to how they cope. It's very sad.
I think a good call out on that is part of the reason of that is that the main people who are showing up under the guise of help are the people who are pushing that narrative. So, you know, even though, you know, like Crump is not a religious, doesn't have a religious position, but that's the narrative he's going to push. That's the narrative Al Sharpton is going to push, that yes, while we want justice, there is a specific way that justice looks, and this justice looks like forgiveness. It looks like Christianity, and God has a greater purpose in this. And so when all of when the people who are paying for your lawyers have this, you know, narrative, and I think they showed that. I don't know if y'all remember the movie A Time to Kill. They did a really good job demonstrating that, of how politics can really override tragedy. And I think we've seen it happen with the Trayvon Martin situation, with the Mike Brown situation. It happens over and over and over again. But it's because as of now, it's not secular communities that are jumping up to fill in that gap. It's the Christian communities. And so it's their echo chambers that surround those families in those vulnerable times.
Wow.
I don't know. I don't know that she would have fared any differently without faith.
Oh, that's I mean, that's true. I don't think she would have. I don't think she would have. No. It just makes it extra insulting. It's just a little pin.
I get it, but I mean, that cop, every time he was there, she was rolling the dice.
Yeah.
Every day he was in that community, it put an X on somebody's head.
Yep.
And he's finally where he deserves to be.
Yep.
And this was the cost, because we care more about next quarter's profit than we do about one another. And things like this make me feel so helpless. I'm like, it's just such an easy solution. We just tell them no. There's more of us. We could freaking do this. But we'd rather like point fingers and be mad at each other than stand together and be happy.
Let me throw a little spice. Let me throw a little spice in here. What do you think about our communities being involved in law enforcement? I think part of the people's hesitation with Kamala Harris was
that she was
a prosecutor.
For
I used to work in a prosecutor's office. My take on it
all
is
the same.
You need but
there's nothing more dangerous than a prosecutor with an agenda.
Yeah, right.
For the public.
But here's my take on it. I think there's, like we talked about, there's a problem of like the black cop that has to fit into the culture of yada yada. Okay. The flip side of that is when the culture is different. So I'll say this. I felt like when I worked in a prosecutor's office, we were very free to be compassionate towards people of color. But that's because it wasn't a black prosecutor in a white prosecutor's office. It was a people of color filled office with a couple of very talented white folks who happen to work there as well, right? And so the marching orders were different, and here's the thing. I don't know what we have. The culture that we have, to me, isn't going anywhere. Like, we're not about to get rid of police. We're not about to get rid of our courts. We're not about to do any of that. And if we continue to tell our people, you're a traitor to your community if you want to work in the legal system, you're a traitor to your community if you want to be a judge, you're a traitor to your community if you want to be a cop, it doesn't help. It doesn't help.
Absolutely.
I mean, it doesn't. And because Bree was, I don't know, very mad about things she had done as a prosecutor. And I'm just like, okay, fine. She used to be a prosecutor. Okay. She didn't continue those policies afterward. And I'm not saying it made it good that, you know, there were things that she needed to do to move on. And she played the game, you know, same way Hillary Clinton played the game, same way all the men played the game.
Right.
For what I don't like that it's different or worse or more sinister when the woman does it. That kind of bothers me. But all that aside, vote. Oh, I'm not allowed to tell you who to vote for. Vote. Period.
Vote. There you
Just
go.
out there and vote, please. But I think that we can when you're looking at the two candidates, there's a very clear we can see very clearly what their priorities are from what their priorities have been in the past. And I want people from time to time just to look at what their priorities have been in the recent past, like in the past 5 years. And to make your decision when you go to the polls. Because I think more than anything that's what's going to matter. And that, but yeah,
But also,
I mean,
I would
that
say
aside, go ahead.
if I don't know to the extent that Springfield is a black city or whatever, but I definitely seems like she was in at least a neighborhood where there's people of color. I don't know that if 2 or 3 cops of color show up that she's not alive today.
Right.
You know?
Right.
I'm saying very emphatically.
That's
it's an ego thing. It's not.
Yeah.
I can't say it wasn't a race thing. Really, I mean, looking at this blonde hair, blue eyed guy, I don't know what his upbringing was at all. So I'm not going to weigh in there. He had a lot of issues where we can't just like blindly write him off as just a racist.
No.
He may have had his own mental health demons that he was dealing with. And, you know, this is how, this is part of how it expressed themselves. He
definitely had a lot of history of behavior issues.
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
However, I mean, I can't say that it wasn't part of it either. And certainly the community she was in was feeling that burden. And we need to do right by our impoverished communities.
And I think what you just brought up is very interesting too, in talking about the systematic issues. The concern is supposed to be she may, or I guess maybe we know she had a mental health condition. So she has a mental health condition and we're supposed to be afraid of what she's going to do with a pot of water. But here's a person who was dismissed from the military for behavioral issues, been at 4 different police departments in 6 years for different behavioral issues, but he's entitled to another job.
Yes.
Another badge, another gun, and he's there in the position to do stuff like that. And setting whatever happens to him aside, this is the systematic problem. You tell black people every day, even at your best, y'all are scary and we don't know. Y'all might just hurt us with your own kitchenware. But the bad apples or the crazy people or the people with behavioral problems from the other communities, they just fail upwards. And it's the same thing where you sitting there where Donald Trump Massey said it was in the news. Okay, so Trump said in the news that he wants to give police immunity. Okay, that's what some people might vote for. But I see him do a rally as a convict with people having a wall of Blue Lives Matter signs behind them. And so it goes back to that slave catching thing where it seems like it's not really about justice, or it's really not about law and order or fairness when you're willing to cheer on certain criminals and then treat other people like just their existence is a crime deserving of execution. Like it's very frightening.
And Jester says something that kind of reminds me of something. So plenty of police departments already have therapists on staff. Their officers shouldn't be in charge of anything out there unless they have a degree and not being assholes, which I agree. But there's a lot of countries in Europe where part of cop training is having psychology classes.
It should be, absolutely.
They need
I can't remember which one it was, but there's a country where like being a cop, like it's like a year and a half like of like classwork that you have to take. A lot of it is behavioral health. It's like, its own associate's degree. And then there's also I want to say like 6-month training once you get in the job. So, I mean, which, we could do any of that if we actually cared about the people. And again, I don't want it to sound like I'm saying, oh, the police only hate Black people or they only hate people of color. I can't remember who it was, but they were in my chat today and last night, sorry. And they were like, Maya, a lot of white people realize that what cops do to brown people is just a test run for what they, do for everybody else. And I love that because like I've been trying to tell everybody that like, because there's a lot of people who are kind of they feel like they're dissociated, like, well, they're not coming for me, so I can, I'm choosing to help you. I'm like, we do see that when there's no brown people, they still come after people. So let's just say that there would be a point at which, and I honestly think they're not going to do away with all the brown people because it gives them nobody else to blame. But if we were to all just leave, let's just say we all went to Mexico en masse, they would turn on one another. Like you're not exempt. And I really wish people would look at the history of America, because it does start with the Black people, and then the white people, the poor white people get roped in. Yeah. Like almost always, whether it like right now we're seeing it with the housing crisis, but jails didn't used to be for white people,
That's right.
These the low class jobs, like all of the stuff that's the low wage jobs.
Yeah, class work.
Keeping people, they used to just keep Black people away from a lot of social support systems, and now even the white people still are using them the most. They're slowly depleting them away. There's a point where they only put the bare minimum amount of money into Black schools, be it elementary school or like college wasn't even a thing for Black people. And now they're trying to do that right now too. They're trying to pull money out of public schools. So, which is again going to start to affect poor white people. But as the middle class dwindles down, it's going to affect the majority of white people. Like it is not just us.
Yep.
And I really need people to see that we are in this together.
And there's an aspect of it, again, going back to that slave catching correlation, is that the people that you kind of chose for these slave catching positions were people who did not own property. Mm-hmm. These were poor whites, and we have not moved from that dynamic. And so oftentimes these police officers many times see themselves as rejects of society, and in the same way that Black pastors do, where this position is the only place that I get any type of respect or any type of authority, and how dare you disrespect my authority? You are supposed to be under me. This is the only time I have a position in this hierarchy, and I'm not going to allow your disrespect to take it away from me. And we definitely see that in the behavior.
Mm-hmm.
All right, gang. Well, it's been another great one. I appreciate y'all
Yeah.
so much for joining me.
This wasn't as bad as I thought.
Right? Yeah.
No, it wasn't. It wasn't.
We handled it with
wasn't
grace.
Yeah, yeah. But go ahead, Darante, give us your closing thoughts, and also let the people know where to find you and what you got going on.
My closing thoughts, and I did do a video on this topic because there's power in the name of Jesus is a very popular song in the Black community. And it's so funny. It actually comes from a church called Bethel out of California, which is like 98% white. But you know, we took it and we jerry-rigged that thing. I was gonna say it another way, but this is Skeptic Haven, so I'm gonna be careful. but we jerry-rigged that thing because it really meant something to us. This ideology that there is power in the name of Jesus, that it breaks our chains. We've bonded with this narrative in such a way that we literally believe that it was Jesus who broke the chains of slavery, and often that Jesus breaks our chains of addictions, and Jesus breaks the chain of poverty. But in every case, as with this one, which was absolutely caught on camera, it is 100% wishful thinking. And it is something that we should do everything we can to safeguard our community against. Sonya did what she thought was right. She did what she believed was right. She followed her sincerely held religious belief. And America just showed you how it respects belief when it's in the hands of Black people. Those are my closing thoughts. You can find me on YouTube at Darante LaMar.
All right, Maya, up next.
Oh man, not as hard on religion as these two. I get it. When we were enslaved, we had nothing, and as a group, like, we got through it holding to our God. And if you look at a lot of the early Juneteenth celebrations, they were held in and around churches, or through their quasi-religious ceremonies, because they heard that there was these white people that had freed them, and they didn't buy that rhetoric. They thanked their God. As we were building our cities and as they were being torn down, we clung to our God. It has been a staple for centuries to get us through hard times. So when I see a woman that needs help, that our society won't give her, I see those decades and centuries of culture coming through her. And I don't know. I wish things were better, and they're not. And again, I feel so hopeless because I'm like, I don't know. Like, what are there more doors I can knock on? Are there more like congressmen that I can badger? Like a stone's throw through DC. Let me know. I'll go knock on all those doors. Just like, make it stop. Like, God, I hate these stories. I want everybody educated, and I want, because I know that there's power and there's strength through education. Knowledge is power, and there's power in our numbers. This game they're playing, like, we're just like willfully ignorant, and it's just really hard to break. I mean, it's harder than it should be to break this chain.
Yeah.
And stories like this just, oh God, just really feeling my mortality. And it's heartbreaking. And I think of those teenagers that now don't have a parents, and she probably has a living mother, and I can't even imagine what it would be like to survive a child. Like, I don't even want to.
Yeah.
A community is broken, and there's a guy in jail, and I guess that's justice, and he's probably sitting there thinking, woe is me, what about me, or my life sucks right now, and it just, no thought to what he just stripped away, because on some level she annoyed him. And I've been going through some things in the community lately, and some people out there who know what I mean. If you know, you know. I go hard on people in the community and in this community, and it's out of love for the community. I've gone harder on Jay. And it's never like, me. It's just like, you got to look what you're doing to us. Think about the greater plan. Think about, what's the long game here? I want us to all be together. I want us to all be stronger. And, I know sometimes it looks like tough love, but I kind of wish, I want to ask everyone to have those tough questions with people. It really would calm me down. I'll stop being such a bitch, I swear. Like, if you all help me out, I won't have to be. If everybody would just say, hey, calm down. It takes the pressure off of any one individual. But again, I really need people to stop focusing on how nice people are and more on the effect that they are having on the group. I need people to think about, okay, this is my friend, and out of love, I want to have a heart to heart with them. And there's going to be people who don't get it. There's going to be people who don't understand. There's going to be people who just like rail out and say, you're attacking me. And, I feel so attacked, and, oh, where are my mother's pearls? And it shouldn't keep you off your game. Because like, there's a lot of people in this community where we're all we got. And
yes,
for us to lose this bond would be heartbreaking for them, would put them in a really bad place, And this is why I do what I do, and this is why I go hard. Well, it's a kind of a civil rights thing. I don't think I have the ability to not go hard on civil rights, because it's about more than me. I don't go hard because you annoyed me. I go hard because we're family,
Yeah.
We got to be there for each other. So I'm begging everybody, to have those conversations out of love. It's going to be uncomfortable at first, but I need you to keep the greater good in mind, because when we like the cop, like everybody, I've seen almost everybody just looking at the deputy, like the partner, like, oh my God, that partner, like how, why wouldn't he say, hey, don't do that? Why would you draw your gun out? Think about how many times you heard one of your friends say something and you knew they shouldn't have said it, and you just let it go. You were that guy.
Yeah.
And again, it doesn't, you don't have to be like me. You have your own style, and I respect that, but let's be there for each other. Let's love one another, and love isn't not love the emotion, but love like the action, the verb. Like let's be there, because we're just such a small community, and even the global scale, smaller, a small group. Yeah. And there's safety in numbers, so let's keep our numbers together. And I love you guys. And I hope to see you all my channel at my Adkisson Bad Science Sunday next week. We'll be doing good stuff
Every Sunday.
every Sunday.
All right. Well, y'all actually kind of changed my closing thoughts when I was listening to y'all. So,
Sorry, I'm just like over here, like
definitely
kumbaya.
touching on what Darante said, like the power of the name of Jesus in the Black community. That's what got me started on this. Was just as a former believer, seeing somebody in real time fearing for their life, calling upon the name of Jesus, and being killed by the people that she actually called to protect her. But to Maya's point, this doesn't actually have to be a conversation that divides us or a conversation we're not unified on, because even as believers, you can recognize the failure in recognizing her humanity. And even as a believer, you can see that this was a Christian woman who was killed, and she should not have been. And thinking about what would you feel if you saw somebody in your community call on Jesus like that and be killed? And I certainly have no smoke for her for being a believer. I have an appreciation for how important the church has been in our history, and that's the place where people are at. And like I said, I don't think I would go there over this situation. It's a bit too touchy, a bit too tragic, for it to become a believers versus non-believers thing. It just had a very stunning effect on me, that I couldn't shake. And so I was glad to have the opportunity to talk to some other free thinkers about it. And so I appreciate y'all for that. And yeah, we need all the help we can get. And I think a lot of times, when people, there is tensions and conflicts in our community like any other community, but I urge people to think about what Maya said, and that is how there's a lot of people in this community who this is the community so central to their lives. We all we have. And so that may be you, that may not be you. But when you interact with people in the community, you want to interact with the awareness that that's the case. So be kind to each other, and I think it will go a long way. But yeah, y'all, I'm at Pocket Locker 86. Pocket Locker 86 on YouTube and everywhere else, and I think I'm about 10 subscribers away from 1,000 or something. So
no way! Oh my god!
Somebody put in the chat, but come sub. I appreciate that. But we'll be here with you guys every other Monday. Don't forget to check out the other shows on Skeptic Haven. On Tuesdays, there's Secular Soapbox. Thursdays, there's the Sunny Spot. Saturdays, the Global Atheist and Women Atheist Unload. And there's Let's Talk on Sunday. And we want to send a big shout out to the patrons: Paul Camish, Puck, Helen, Greene, Logan Fisher, Amanda McLeod, Eric Ozols, Ryan, Deneen Murphy, Dan D, Michael Wiseman, Sunny Shell, Aaron Coalson, and Phil Calderone. And we will see you all right here next Monday. Not the following, the next Monday, every other Monday. So in 2 Mondays,
in a fortnight.
In a fortnight. That's gonna be the close. In a fortnight on the next Black Freethinkers, y'all.